Hello, everybody. It's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I know I'm a terrible YouTuber. I have not been around for at least a week. I think it's been a week, maybe just under a week. And things have just been incredibly busy. Every single night, if I am on a stream, I can't make a video. It's every night I have to pick between one or the other. So it's a video night tonight. I know I'm streaming uh, with Peter tomorrow, and so I don't know how I'm going to squeeze a video in, but I will. I'll figure it out. Um, but I actually have a topic that I really want to talk about, which is not new news, and I will explain. But Marvel Comics white editor pretended to be Japanese. That part is old news from 2017, and really earlier. I mean, much earlier. Okay. Second part of this is a coworker wants him held accountable. Also, not current news, really. I mean, it's a few days old. It's cycled out. The news here is that this is coming from NBC News, and that it is finally broken out of the small circle that is the comic books media realm into mainstream news outlets. Now, normally Marvel is just dying, drooling all over itself, hoping for a story to achieve that level and get out. How do they normally do that? Well, they spit in the face of their traditional comic book fan market. That could get them there. They can also trivialize and make terrible stereotypes and caricatures of their minority fans in order for woke points. They do that quite often. Those are usually their keys to success to break out of news. But in this case, this is bad news, at least if you're CB Cebulski, who, as always, looks like he's ready to stuff a Subway meatball sandwich into his mouth. Why is every picture of him with his mouth wide open? I don't understand. Anyway, so we're going to get into the story and some of the specifics and what makes this interesting right now. And I kind of want to focus on this accountability because that is actually an interesting concept to me at the moment. But first, Downcast 3 Submerged. This is Volume 3, not to be confused with Issue 3, which is right now live on Alterna Comics. Alterna is reprinting the Downcast story, but broken up into small single issues. So you can get the single issues here if you want to follow it that way, or take a bigger bite and go ahead and go with the volumes of Downcast, and you can get that here right now on Indiegogo, which those books should be. It's like the shipper has the books. They're on a truck, and they've been on a truck since Friday. They were supposed to be delivered 2 days ago. What's happening? I don't know. I will wait patiently, but those books should be arriving any minute now, and I will ship them out immediately. All right. So getting back to this in accountability, there's a few red herrings in here, and I will point them out for you. And we're going to start off here with screenwriter and director Stephen DeKnight is halting work with Marvel Comics after learning the editor-in-chief C.B. Cebulski once pretended to be Japanese to further his career. There's one big problem with this, and that is Stephen DeKnight, screenwriter and director, now is halting work with Marvel Comics. What? He hasn't written for Marvel Comics. He's been in the television industry, and he just heard about some incredibly old news. How old? 2017 old. That's when everyone found out, and people have been giggling about CB Cebulski pretending, at least in his pen name, to be Asian, to write Asian books. And for some reason, now it's outrageous. Okay, so we'll go along with that for a minute. Let's hear what he has to say. How does this man still have a job? Completely unacceptable. DeKnight wrote Saturday, beginning a series of tweets in which he eventually announced his resignation. I love working with Marvel, but I will not pursue or accept future work until this is resolved. The problem is, I'm going to stop you right there. That if you're a freelancer, that means you currently have no work. So you're not going to look for work or accept work in the future with Marvel Comics. That's not exactly quitting Marvel Comics. That's remaining the same as not getting work with Marvel. That's what that means. So there's that. The second thing is, what is acceptable? If it's completely unacceptable for CB Cebulski to still be working at Marvel Comics, not just working at Marvel Comics, look what he says here. How does this man still have a job? He should be jobless, potentially homeless, unless he's got some other way to support himself besides having a job. So if this is accountability, is this really a world that you want to live in? So how long ago? Yes, we've been laughing since 2017 about him doing this. How long ago was it? It was the early 2000s that he wrote under this pen name. Now, far be it from me to defend CB Cebulski because I feel no need ever. But in this case, it's such a ridiculous claim, statement, standard to hold people by that I have to point it out. It doesn't matter who's doing it and who it's being done to. This is 100% stupid. This is completely cancel culture. How do you deny that cancel culture exists if this is what you're claiming to do? You're going to leverage, essentially it's either him or me, which is hilarious because, again, if you're not currently working at Marvel, what does it matter if you leave or not do more work for Marvel? And I've never read a single thing that Stephen DeKnight has written, so I'm not really sure I'm going to miss that. Let's see. So he wrote things for Marvel Comics such as Wolverine Black, White, and Blood. When was that? Black, White, and Blood? I don't know. I haven't read that. Representative said Marvel has nothing new to share about this matter because it's an old story. He admitted in 2017 that he used the name Akira Yoshida and published several Marvel comics under it in the early 2000s, with many of them are featuring Asian characters and themes. Maybe that's because of the lie that you can't do anything unless you're being yourself. You cannot write about Asians unless you're Asian. That's the only way you can do it. How you can write a cast with people of multiple ethnicities and diversity, I don't know, because you'd have to be singularly all of those things at the same time in order to write a story like that. This is why I guess segregation in comics is the future, which it looks like they're already getting started on. How's this for a quote? And not only a quote, this is tone deaf. It's just another example of non-Asians feeling they are more authoritative than actual Asian people. Now, who said that? That's Keith Chow, the editor-in-chief of the Nerds of Color, a cultural criticism site, told NBC News in 2017, people of color are not costumes you can't just wear when it suits you. So let's think about this for a moment and step back. Who here is a non-Asian feeling that they're more authoritative than a real Asian? Who is that? Let me think who that could be. If you believe that you need to be outraged on behalf of somebody else, not just somebody else, an entire race of people, because you were, I don't know, you wrote for Marvel before, and you apparently aren't getting directing work anymore or film producing work, now you're more authoritative and you're going to have to, they're going to account to you even though you're not an Asian. Do you see how silly this all is? We're going to continue on here. So Marvel still has a page up. Let's see. Marvel still has a page up online crediting work to the pseudonym. So they're supposed to take it out, I guess, attributing dozens of projects to Yoshida. Cebulski spun an elaborate backstory that Yoshida was a translator who previously worked in manga and was friends with artists like Pat Lee. He even gave interviews under the pseudonym, according to Bleeding Cool, a comics news site that broke the story. Marvel confirmed the claims to NBC News in 2017, and after years of denials, Cebulski admitted to Bleeding Cool that Yoshida was in fact him. Quote, I wasn't transparent, but it has taught me a lot about writing, communication, and pressure. I was young and naive and had a lot to learn back then, but this is all old news that has been dealt with, he said. So he is right. It is old news. Has it been dealt with? Well, it'll never be dealt with. As long as you have a job anywhere, that's the criteria we already went over earlier. If you are working, if you have a job, it hasn't been dealt with. You must be homeless forever. And maybe ultimately that would be better for Marvel Comics anyway. So accountability, please. How about this, though? If you do stupid stuff, maybe you get some criticism. That sounds fair. If you cost your company money, maybe you lose your job. Maybe that's possible. But in this case, this is such old news. This is desperately trying to stoke people up into outrage. They're not outraged. People have been laughing about it for years. You're trying to reignite outrage because you either first learned about this just now, just Saturday, you learned about this, or two, you are desperate for attention, and there's some reason why you need to go to these great lengths to get someone fired from not only their job but working anywhere. How does this man still have a job? Completely unacceptable. I don't know, but if that's accountability, you can have it. In the meantime, I'm pretty happy to be independent. And if you want to support independent comic creation, this is a good route to go. Downcast #3. I cannot wait till people get this book because I think you're really going to like it. I think this is going to be landmark for the Downcast series and for my writing career, period. So thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone that watches my videos. I'm going to try and be more regular. Things are starting to calm down a bit until I start fulfillment. But I will see you soon.